classroom structures can unlock not only human potential but also economic growth and national development. I am Oyinpriye Kromale, and this is Just Africa. Good afternoon to you, Olumide.
Good afternoon, Oyinpriye. Welcome to Just Africa. I am Olumide Shokoya. Very interesting topic because while we are trying to make sure that every child gets quality education, we also have to look at those with special needs. Imagine a child who does not have, who cannot walk on a wheelchair, trying to get into the classroom or trying to get into school with no ramp. How do you expect, or a teacher who does not understand dyslexia, who might see it as some form of myth or some sort of, how are they even well equipped enough to understand that certain children have special needs, and you have to treat each child different? That is why the private school, people sought for the private school, because they have lesser children in school, in classrooms, whereby the teacher can actually monitor, because that's the duty for you to know each child's needs, specific needs, and be able to address that need. So it is not just about providing infrastructure in place, it's also about training these teachers to make sure, and having policies, creating policies that will guide schools to let them know that this is how it's supposed to be.
Special children, special students with special needs. Now, No Child Left Behind, Rethinking Inclusion in Africa Classroom, actually speaks to a fundamental shift from the traditional one, the one-size-fits-all model and approach to education, toward a model that recognizes and supports the diverse learning needs of all children, including those with disabilities, neurodivergence, or socioeconomic disadvantage. It challenges educators, governments, parents, and policymakers to ensure that every child, regardless of ability, background, or learning style, is seen, supported, and set up to thrive. We're going to break. When we return, we'll have our guests join us on the program so we can commence the conversation. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us on the program. Now we have a prominent guest, Chukwunonso Omifenwa. He's an educator, narrative education advocate, and author with nearly 15 years of experience in African classrooms. She is widely known for her passionate work promoting inclusive and culturally relevant learning systems across the continent of Africa, across Nigeria. And as a parent to a young boy on the autism spectrum, Chukwunonso brings a powerful blend of personal insight and professional expertise into her advocacy. She works closely with parents, teachers, and educators, policymakers to challenge outdated norms and rethink what success means in schools today. Chukwunonso will be joining us on the program in a bit. She is standing by. I know about that. But before she actually joins us on the program, you mentioned something very, very fundamental. Special needs, special children requiring special attentions, which most of the time public schools cannot provide. Or most of the times, it's not that the public schools cannot provide, but they do not have systems in place that could cater to the specific and peculiar needs of these special children, because we can't begin to talk about autism and children who have dyslexia, autism, and how special they are. Now, the thing about special when it comes to education, does not only apply in the education sector. There was a time the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the International Labour Organization was actually looking at member states and was trying to propose solutions to people with special needs, to the extent that they started discussing with governments of each country that, look, if you're building bridges, pedestrian bridge. Don't
Yes.
just build bridges for people who can walk across. People use wheelchair. There should be a specific part for some of the people who use wheelchair to be able to access a pedestrian bridge, because obviously they cannot cross the road if
Yes.
they're on the wheelchair. You go to hospitals, most especially you see that in Nigeria and in Lagos.
Yes.
You see there's a, and other times in higher education learning environment, you see the staircase where people can easily access.
Yes.
Then there are other places as well where you could see
A slopey.
a slopey area that people who can't walk, can wheelchair ramp, can access easily. And that is inclusiveness that we are talking about.
Yes.
But in today's conversation, we are taking it to the classroom, and we have Chukwunam So Omifewa joins us on the program this afternoon on Just Africa. Welcome to the program, Chukwunam Omifewa.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Many thanks for joining us. Now, let me not only welcome you to the program. I guess you've been hearing us talk about these children with special needs, and sometimes that specific name, children with special needs, special education, peculiar students, peculiar people, it sounds somewhat ambiguous. So could you please throw some light into it so that we can inform and educate our listeners and our viewers?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chukunum Somi Fenwa. Special children are just basically children that have a different kind of neurological makeup. So it's diverse. You have those with disability. You have those with learning needs. You have those with even gifted children are actually called special children. But in this part of the world, we don't recognize that. So they're just children that have um, different neurological developments. They are not all of them. We don't consider them as sick children. We don't consider them as abnormal. They just are different. That's just the word. They're different from other children. Hence the term special children. So it then implies that they require special care. They require special education. So that's just the simple definition of special education, special children. They're children that, for the way they were, some of them, the way they were born. So we have those with disability, we have those with learning challenges, we have those with physical. Those ones are very glaring physical disability. That's what makes them special.
So when we talk about no child is left behind and rethinking inclusion in the classroom, in education, not only in Nigeria, including other African countries, what exactly do you mean? Or what exactly does it mean, inclusive education, where we need to bring these special needs children on board who do not, have the same abilities, or who have some challenges? How can we bring them into the conventional education space where they're learning in the midst of everyone? How possible is that? Or do we suggest creating a different environment, the same classroom, or special schools, special education center for that purpose?
Okay, so the question I always like to ask is, these children, will they grow up in a unique society exclusively for them? And the answer is no. They're going to grow up in a society that is inclusive of everybody. They don't have a different world. They are not going to attend a different kind of university that's exclusively for special needs children. They're not going to attend a different kind of mosque or church. So if they are living in the world where everyone is living, then they should be educated alongside everyone. I'm not an advocate for special schools because they would not function in a society outside of the school. They need to be integrated into the learning systems, into the learning structures of the country. Now, these things are actually quite difficult because if you take, for example, Nigeria as a country, I know we're talking about Africa, but if we look at Nigeria as a country, Nigeria has the second highest number of out of school children globally, about almost 20 million. Nigeria's budget for education is low. 5% of the total budget goes to education. UNESCO recommends 15 to 20%. Nigerian teachers are not formally trained. So having children, special needs children, in a system where other children are is the only way we can help them thrive in a society. They're not going to go when they go to watch football in a stadium. There's no stadium that is exclusively for special needs children. They're going to go to the markets. They're going to pass by bus stops. They're going to jump on buses. And the world, unfortunately, is cruel. The people don't understand empathy. So the earlier they get immersed in a society, the better for them. I'm speaking this way, and I feel I'm qualified because I am an educator. I'm a mom, and most importantly, I'm a mom to a special needs child. But even before I became a mom to a special needs child, this is something that we learned in education, the need for inclusion. There's always an argument of whether they should be in an inclusive school or not. And my answer is always they are going to live in an inclusive environment. So the earlier they are in an inclusive school, the better for them. And the better for the society at large too. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that thoughtful answer. Now, I like to also look at it from this other angle. Now, integrating them back into the society, putting them in schools along with other normal children so that they can relate better. But if you look at some of these public schools, now, for instance, I attended a government college, Lagos. Back then, we were about 70 going to 100 in a classroom, and then you rarely see your teacher even in a day. You might probably see your teacher maybe twice a week because it's over there in the teacher's teacher's office and all that. So, and most parents prefer taking their child to private schools where you have lesser students in the classroom so that the teacher can actually focus on each child, let alone a child with special need. So how do we even begin to rectify this, the population of students in a classroom? Then again, looking at the teacher themselves, how many of them are well equipped? Should we even make it a compulsory requirement for some of these teachers to study psychology, to study some certain courses, so that they will be well equipped to handle all types of children?
Okay, thank you, sir. What I'm about to say is debatable, but I stand by what I'm going to say. I believe that um, NCE, that is College of Education, offers better training for teachers than University of Education, than faculties, departments in faculties of education in university. I say this because I went to a college of education before I proceeded to University of Lagos for my degree. And during my college days, we had courses in special education, which we didn't take any course in special education during my university days. Now imagine if every teacher, and I mean qualified teachers, please, imagine if every person that graduates from a university or anybody that has a teaching degree already has some background knowledge in special education. Imagine the difference it will make. So I think I'm taking it from your last question. For teacher training, I think it's important to ensure that it's part of the course content for your 4-year program in the university or any university. As long as you're studying education, you should learn about special education. It's important. I There's so many courses I took in my college days. I attended Tertiary College of Education. There are so many courses I took that were very extensive and gave me, in fact, that was what even built my love for teaching. And getting into the university, I was expecting more. I was expecting more more wholesome courses, like courses on comparative education, all of that, that will give you a leverage, that will make you learn, that will make you even hungry for knowledge, understanding the education world. So I think that first of all, for course content in the universities, special education courses should not be an optional course. It should be compulsory. It should be a compulsory course. So if it when teachers have that basic training, it makes a lot of difference. Whether they're teachers in the public school or the private sector. Now, for the public schools, I attended a public secondary school too, and I sincerely cannot remember if we ever had any special needs child. I don't remember, honestly. But the problem with public schools is not something that we can change with this conversation. That's why I laid the foundation of it's a Nigerian problem, it's a Nigerian education problem. Unfortunately, no matter how much we have this discussion, the the ball still stops on the desk of the government. If they do nothing, we will get little results. However, there's something that everyone has, which is empathy. As a teacher, even if you don't know anything about special education, if you have empathy, you can lead your class right. You can help your learners. My son, who's a special needs child, permit me to cite to share this experience. So he was attending a particular school, and we had to withdraw him from that school because he was not well taken care of. And we started looking for a school. I know that this is a struggle that so many parents go through. We started searching for a school. It was taking so long. We were going, and the number one question I ask when my husband and I get to a school is, "Do you have provision for special needs child?" And the response we get is either they're confused, they have no idea, or some will truthfully say no. And I'm wondering, this is an education, and I'm not talking about small schools. Why would you not have provision for special needs children? Eventually, we settled for this school. They did not have any special needs child in this school, but we felt at peace. And he did so well. His result was outstanding. And that's because the teachers were willing to learn. So there's a teacher training challenge which the government needs to look into. Making special education courses compulsory. It's just basic special education course. It's not complicated. What it entails, types of special education, how to help them, the ones with learning disabilities, the ones with that's just what the course is all about. That is number one. Number two, there's the role that the stakeholders play in all of this. Not everyone can afford to go to a private school. We talked about government school. There was a government school in Ijebode. I That was where I had I used the school for my project. Yeah, that was the school I used for my project during my NC days. And this school is actually a special education, is a special school. All the children there are special. Now I spent 3 months there on the studying, researching because I was writing about learning disabilities. And I realized while conversing with the teachers and all, they were in fact they were not underpaid. They had not been paid for months, so they were practically just coming to work because they didn't want to lose their jobs. And then they didn't have resources. So you have a classroom where you have students with diverse special needs, but you don't have the resources to teach them. So what are you going to do as a teacher? How long will you keep using your own resources? So the teachers that have empathy or that are passionate about the job might once in a while use their resources. The others will just make do with what they have. So we have little or no control over what the government is supposed to do. That's why I will say, as a teacher, get the training. As a parent, there are things you can do at home because if we wait on the government, we'll get nothing done. As a society.
Interrupt you. Let me come in here. Sorry to butt in because I need you to touch a whole number of places before we leave. So now you've mentioned some of these schools and how some of them are, severely lacking when it comes to the special needs that the special needs children will need to have, the training, the personnel requirement. What about laying down infrastructure for the special needs children, children with autism? And how were you able to navigate, where teaching by mixing both special needs children with conventional children in your own teaching experience? We would like you to share more or more of those experiences, and also the infrastructure that needs to be put in place by both private and government enterprise into education so that it can cater to the needs of the special needs students.
Okay, sir. So as a teacher, I don't teach within the four walls of a classroom anymore. I teach remotely. But when I was teaching, there's something we call the UDL, that's Universal Design for Learning. And what it simply means is that planning your lessons in a way that can accommodate all types of learners. So you have multiple ways of learning, seeing, hearing, doing. So if you're teaching a concept, ensure that you're using different techniques so that everyone can be carried along. You have making sure that your children are understanding what you're teaching, not just tests. So not just the written test, asking questions, slowing down, interacting, assigning students that you know that they seem to be doing better than others. You could assigning them responsibility of helping the others. There's a different touch he has when a student is assisting his or her friend than when the teacher is doing it. There's also the aspect of staying motivated and staying motivated and being engaged. Excuse me, please. And so, what I do in the classroom is to ensure that first off, everybody would explain what they understand by the topic. So I'm not coming. I start teaching by facilitating. Facilitating is just controlling the conversation. So I'm not controlling the class. I'm just um, allowing the children in quote teach. So they express themselves, whether they are right or wrong, allow them express themselves. If, for example, I'm teaching them figures of speech, I could just list everything on the board and ask them, so what do you think metaphor is? Allow them express themselves. No one is right or wrong. Then after they have expressed themselves, I now build on that. Okay, Taiwo said this. What do we think is the difference between irony and simile? We use a lot of instructional materials, use lots of audio visuals. I know that is tough or almost impossible in some classes, but it's something that is achievable. Prepare before the class, you have printed out everything that you want to use. If there's a projector in the class, you've gotten enough videos, short videos that can explain this thing. Maybe songs on these things that can make it more explanatory, that can make it fun. So you are playing a 3 minutes video on the board on the projector for them that is about figures of speech. That one has its own effects. Then you have printed out or use sticky notes or flashcards and you plan a game in class that can allow some of these things stick. Then you could also do an activity in class that would involve them. For example, I could divide the class into 6 groups and say, okay, you are going to be group A. Group A is irony. Group B is hyperbole. Group C is personification. This is what you would do. Getting them involved in the teaching process, in the teaching and learning process, it makes a whole lot of difference. That way, every child is covered. So whether it's the games we use, whether it's the flashcards we use, whether it's the group activity we use, every child is covered. Not
Just a moment, Miss Chinam. So just a moment. Let's go on a break. We'll be back shortly to continue with the conversation. It's still Just Africa. Do stay with us.
Welcome to Femi Walsh Limited, owners of Soup TV Lagos, Our Radio Lagos, Kaswa Radio Kano, and of course, Emirates TV Abuja and Dubai. Our niche market for media is business, economy, and development. At Femi Walsh, we promote your company's products and services using our world-class facilities. From our radio to Sook TV, what you get is nothing but the best of the very best.
And if you're looking for the premium production firm for your events and corporate coverage, think no further, because we offer you the best of industry standards.
With high-definition cameras ranging from 4K to 8K multicam setups, high-directional microphones, and real-time streaming encoders, we give you a production like none other. And if you're looking to produce podcasts, adverts, and documentaries, our team of experts will ensure that you convey your message clearly and professionally. Femi Welsh, Global Vision, Local Impact. On the 19th of August 2025, Paris will come alive with the prestigious People's Choice Governors Awards taking place at the Gauche Hotel, Paris. The prestigious People's Choice Governors Awards is designed to celebrate governors who have contributed immensely to their states in different countries across the world. If you are a governor who's gone above and beyond to deliver transformative projects in your state and country, then this award is for you. To partake of the Governor's Excellence Awards this year taking place in Paris, all you have to do is send an email to soupnexus.com with the words, "I accept," and we will get right back to you. You can also send a WhatsApp message to the WhatsApp number scrolling on your screen right now. You don't want to miss Paris for anything, and we are looking forward to celebrating you and your achievements this year. So contact Soup Nexus to make that happen.
Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us on the program. We're still in Just Africa. We're having a conversation about rethinking our classrooms, inclusive education, and majorly catering to the needs of special needs students or children. We're having a conversation with a prominent guest who has several years, over 15 years of experience in exactly what we are talking about, and that's Chinamso Omifenwa. She's been with us from the beginning of the program. Welcome once again to the program.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you very much, Chino. So one of the major factors contributing to this education exclusion for children with special need is stigmatization. It's still rampant in Nigeria. I remember when we were young, we had a friend who had a sibling with special need, but whenever we go to his house, we don't get to see his brother. He's kept somewhere, and the only time you get to see him is when he comes to, take his dinner or lunch and all that. So there's still that stigmatization there. So how can we, or what role basically can grassroots advocacy, led by, of course, parents of children with disabilities and disability advocates, what role can grassroots advocacy do in taking away these cultural biases
Mm. Uh, Answering this question, it makes me emotional because I talk about my son a lot on my WhatsApp status, and sometimes people question why I do that. Ever since we knew about his diagnosis, which was about 3 years ago, I talk about it openly, and I'm trying to create awareness. And I'm happy because of what I do. I write about him a lot. I write about the experience of being a special needs mom. I share my journey, and I encourage people to take that first step of getting their child diagnosed to know what the needs are and to get help. But I think that parents have to brace up. That's the truth. I'm a parent and I had to wake up. It's like um is I don't know how to explain it. I When I first knew that my son was on the spectrum, I lived in denial, and I think that every parent goes through that phase of living in denial before I eventually got convinced and took the step of taking him to the hospital. But parents, I had to break free from the stigmatization myself because I had to tell myself, how would it feel like knowing that I'm taking my son to a neuropsychiatric hospital? People don't understand what it means. People think that your child is mad. They don't know that it's just the hospital for the child to get help. So I think that parents, there's no better way to package this thing or to say this. If you know that your child has special needs, brace up. You enjoy the benefits on the long run. We need to openly talk about these things, and not as a form of mockery or just talk about it for the fun of it, but to create awareness. I've had people call me from I don't even know them, and they say, my friend sent me your number, please, what hospital do you use for your son? And I'm happy I'm seeing all of these results because I braced up and I talk about it. People will tell me, don't say your son is autistic. I said, but that is who he is. So whether we feel stigmatized or not, that does not remove the fact that this child has special needs. So let's brace up and let's openly talk about these things. You never can tell where help will come from. People send me lots of resources. When they see an opportunity for maybe free materials or resources, people forward them to me on WhatsApp because I openly talk about this. That's for the parents. For other stakeholders, the media is powerful. The media has power to do anything to effect change. So we need people in the media to wake up. We need filmmakers. We need people that do animation to start talking about this thing, to shed more light, to educate people. Imagine someone producing a film that mirrors in on Down syndrome or dyslexia. And there's a lot of information. It might even be a 3 minute film. There are YouTube films. Um, all of this, people need to wake up and take advantage of all of the resources available. For the government, they know what to do. If they're not going to play their role, then it's okay with them. But for parents, we cannot live in denial forever. We need to wake up. We need to speak these things. We need to talk about them. There are organizations that are doing a lot for special children. GTB has been doing a lot. In fact, GTB Autism Fair was the first place we took our son to for him to be assessed before they referred us to the neuropsychiatric hospital. So there are lots of organizations that are doing a lot of things, throwing in more light, educating parents. Then we need to take this message to the rural areas. We need to do films in indigenous languages. We need to do all those stand-up comedians and all of them. These are things that they can also do. It won't cost them anything to do like a 2 minutes video, maybe in Yoruba language, to show how to care for a child with Down syndrome. And they because they have they're popular, they're influencers, these things will spread. Imagine if one of these top influencer does something like that. Imagine how many people watching it and how much effect it will have. Because being in the city, you already have an advantage. You have resources, you have the internet, you have all of this. Some people in the rural area don't even have any of this. So bringing these things to the grassroots level, all the big organizations, some of the ones I even mentioned, making these things accessible in local dialects. If you print it.
So, if I may comment, sorry about that. If I may comment, one of the things I picked up from what you said is self-denial, which I want us to actually look at. A lot of parents, like you said you also went through that phase of self-denial. So, I want you to share more so that others can learn. How did you come out of this self-denial? What can be done to bring parents out of this self-denial? What can the federal government, state government do to, because it is after you come out of that phase of self-denial that you can now decide, you can now start to seek help for that child?
Okay, for me, it was my friend. It was my best friend. She was even the person that spotted he was on the autism spectrum. We didn't know. We just assumed he was a very quiet child. And whenever she calls, she would tell us that, oh, this boy is not giving eye contact. Are you sure he's not on the spectrum? And she would ask questions. And I'm like, no, he's just quiet. He's just. So she kept pressing. She kept pressing. She kept pressing. And imagine, as literate as I am, I had no idea. So one day she called me and she said, would you rather leave this boy without help and later discover that, oh, he's on the spectrum? Or you go for a diagnosis, they do a proper test and all, and they tell you he's not on the spectrum, he just has some developmental challenges. And she told me, she said, you have nothing to lose by taking this boy for a diagnosis. And my husband and I, we kept stalling, we kept stalling, we kept stalling. Until one day she called me and she said, I'm saying this because it's for your own good. The earlier a child with special needs is checked, the better for the family. If this child grows older and has not been properly diagnosed and taken care of, you would not be at peace. You would not enjoy your home. There's going to be a lot of pressure on you. And we braced up one day to say, you know what, let's go. Let's take this step. Let's go. So we went to, it wasn't easy. It's never easy because that's not something a parent will want to hear. It's not easy. But we took the step and went to Patrick's Speech and Language Center. And I remember that day in the lobby, I was crying because I was like, is this my reality? But because I had a friend that kept pushing me, she kept pushing me and she said, you know what? I'm giving you a deadline. Before the end of this week, go to so so and so place and get him checked. And that was the first step. After that, we didn't do anything until after the DTB autism fair. So after all of that, it was time to begin taking him for therapy at the neuropsychiatric hospital. I kept saying to myself that, so my son is going to a psychiatric hospital. It felt very strange. It felt very. I remember the first time I was going there, I was actually crying on my way to the hospital because I couldn't believe that this is my new reality. But 3 years down the line, I am happy. I am fulfilled. He's here. He's here in the house. He's playing. He can articulate words. If you hear him speak, there's been so much improvement. So when I look back, I am happy I had a friend that pushed me. I'm happy I had family members that supported me, that would encourage me, that would ask me about his diet and what he's eating. I'm happy that I have family um that will ask me when he's coming to spend holiday, what are the things he shouldn't eat, all of that. Is the support that got me, that made me even take this step. So I imagine a literate parent not even wanting to be on that path, not because they don't love their child, but it's just the fear. There's so much fear. There's so much disappointment. You're wondering, there's guilt on the mom's part. That did I do anything wrong? Did I miss anything? Did I not when I was pregnant? All of that. There is that you're dealing with. But if you think about the long-term effects, do you want to have a 15-year-old that you are still wearing diaper for, or he's still pooing all over the house? Is that what you want? If you're
Madam Chinamso, Ms. Chinamso, sorry, just a moment, just a moment. Thank you so much. Now, I think we are getting closer to where we need to wrap up the conversation with you, but there's one question I need you to also attend to before we leave. And that question had to do with something very, very significant that you mentioned whilst you were responding to the question that my colleague asked you. And that had to do with skills, potential, abilities. Most people think that the skills, the potential, the abilities belongs to the people with normal people, belongs to normal people who have everything. And one of the stigma against special needs people or children is that they are liabilities. Now, in your contact with these special issues, please tell us about the abilities that they possess, that normal people also possess, and the fact that they are special needs children does not actually deny them of having those abilities, which have been nurtured by education just the way it applied to normal people. Please tell us about that as we wrap up on the program.
okay. Um, just like every normal child, not everyone has a special ability. The same thing with special needs children. Not all of them have that special ability. So I I don't I think that the label special needs makes people imagine or makes people assume that there's something wrong with them. There are so many things they cannot do. Um, Parents are the first nurturers, and it's in your daily contact with the child. It's in your if you're doing therapy, the things that you do daily, the what the speech therapy says, occupational therapy, what all of them teach you is in what you do daily. Now, when you're nurturing the skills, it's just like every other child. I like to think of them as every other child. I have two children. One has special needs. We don't give him preference. What the older one is able to do, we train him to do it too. We don't excuse, I don't know how to say it, we don't excuse some of these things. So the fact that a child has special needs, which is in fact, even autism itself is a range, does not mean that he or she is not able to do some special things. I don't even know what are these unique abilities. Some of them are trained, some of them don't come naturally. Some children are that you just find out that they read very well without little or no efforts. Naturally, they know how to read. Then we begin to nurture it. So the fact that they are special needs children does not mean they are in them, for lack of a better word, mumu. They cannot reason. They cannot be creative. In fact, this conversation we are having, there's a lot of last year alone. There's a lot of focus on special needs children that are doing exceptional things, and that's because they had people that nurtured these skills. That's why I'll always talk about the role of the parents, because the school can do little or nothing. The child is living with you. Even if the child goes to school, the child is coming back home to you. Even if the child has a therapist, the child is still living in your house. So you as the parent, you are the one that have the major role to play in nurturing whatever skill it is that the child already has or that you want the child to have. I know these things are easy to say, but implementing is almost impossible, especially in low income communities. That's why I'm advocating for pushing this message out there. There is no skill that a um, child has that a special needs child cannot get. If they have the proper training, if they have the proper exposure, and if the parents are ready to play their parts. I'll give you one example. When we go for speech therapy, the therapist will tell us it's a government hospital. They don't have time to spend time with you and your child. In a day, they might see up to 20 children. So they will tell you, watch what we are doing and practice in your house. So when the summary of all of this is that when we talk about inclusion for special needs children, the parents have a major role to play, not even the classroom. Because if the parents are doing their own part at home, it's easy for the child to be integrated into any form of classroom. The child is going to spend how many hours in the classroom? The rest of the day is spent in your house. What are you doing at home? They're on holiday now. Are you going to drop them in summer school, or do you have?
Sorry. Let me just come in here and I just end with this, please. Do you think the budget, the government of the country, either at the federal level or state level, should devote a special part of the education budget to cater to the needs of the special children? Do you think that's an argument that should be sustained and should be achieved in the long run?
I think so. I think so because if we are going to, if we are talking about inclusion in the classroom, resources must be in place. It means that we should consider having projectors in every classroom. And that cannot fly with our 5% budget. So even if it is not stated that the budget is being expanded for special education purpose, but it should. Otherwise, we would only talk about inclusion and nothing will be done. So if the budget is extended, all of these things we're talking about, even down to the kind of what the kinds of swings and stuff for playing in a school, all of these things, it will be reflected.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Chinamso. Okay. Chukunamso rather, Omifenwa is an educator, narrative education advocate and author with nearly 15 years of experience in African and Nigerian classrooms. She's widely known for a passionate network of promoting inclusive and culturally relevant learning systems across the country. Thank you so much. We really wish we could have spent the whole day with you and having this program, but please, thank you for having a robust conversation with us. But I also want to get your words on this. It's obvious rather that we are not done with this conversation. We're going to extend another invitation so we can have another conversation. I hope you're going to let us in. You're going to make yourself available.
Yes, I will, and I believe I'll be much better by then.
You did excellently well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time with us.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Wow, what
a touching,
quite a very touching
interview.
Sensitive conversation to have.
Yes, it's having her to share some of the experiences she had, especially self-denial, moving from self-denial to seek solution. I must commend Chukunonso for that bravery, and I also commend those who are around her. And I think that's how we build a community. That's how a community is supposed to work. Having people not just advise you, but still continually advise you, continually tell you, do this, get this help, get this help. And I'm happy she was able to share her own story so that those listening at home, because according to reports in Africa, 1 out of 10 children have special needs, and only 10% of them get access to education.
Quite low.
Quite low.
Quite low. Okay, our second guest is on standby concerning our conversation today, but it might be going not completely a whole different direction. It's still within the precincts of education. But we'll take that conversation after this break. Do join us again. It's Just Africa. We'll be back in a moment.
For years, uncomplimentary features including obsolete books, lack of power supply, leaking roofs, and sparse library infrastructure have become an integral feature of public libraries. Visits to some of these facilities, particularly in Lagos and Ibadan, indicate a litany of pathetic public libraries. Attempts by governments to turn things around have been weak and sometimes non-existent. Expectedly, the impact of this on learning is telling. This is the basis of today's news talk, which focuses on public libraries. An American writer, Sidney Sheldon, once said that libraries store the energy that funds imagination. He added that libraries open up windows to the world and inspire us to explore and achieve and contribute to improving our quality of life. For many years, many young Nigerians have failed to improve the quality of their lives by expanding their knowledge or nurturing their latent reading skills, hence leave most parts of their lives in doubt, contrary to the advice by British novelist and screenwriter J.K. Rowling, who said, "When in doubt, go to the library." Public libraries play a crucial role in a country's educational system by providing free access to a wealth of information and resources through offering a diverse range of books, journals, and digital resources that are essential for learning and research. They serve as a repository of knowledge accessible to everyone, regardless of socio-economic status, in addition to supporting lifelong learning by providing resources for all age groups. Their role in promoting literacy by offering reading programs, story hours, and access to books for young readers is very crucial for early childhood education and developing a reading culture. It is in light of this that the declining state of public libraries and poor management of the existing one, particularly in Lagos and Ibadan, are posing concern to critical shareholders. These concerns are there because of the overreaching effect on the standard of education in the two states, Oyo and Lagos. Most libraries in Lagos and Ibadan share similar attributes. They range from old buildings with leaking roofs, obsolete books, empty shelves, disused tables and chairs, uncomfortable ambience, and overgrown shrubs. Also, while the world is migrating electrically and libraries digitalized to bring them up to speed and make them fit for purpose in contemporary times, most libraries in Lagos and Ibadan are without electricity and manually driven. With fond memories of borrowing books to read in Lagos and returning them to the library in the full care of the other students after digesting their contents, Mrs. Felicia Adeniyi is pained that many years after, school children are longer enjoying such opportunities because of what public libraries have become. For starters, most of the libraries in Lagos State belonging to the state government are in a ruinous state. In its wisdom, the Lagos State government some years ago has turned the age-long library on Broad Street into a drug laboratory or whatever. This reporter used to use the library in the 60s, 70s, and 80s before the politicians decided to change their minds. In Oyo State, the surrounding of the Oyo State Library Board at Dugbe in Ibadan betrays what a reading environment should look like. Inside the facility is equally disheartening. Additionally, makeshift shanties cluster the precincts of the library, making it difficult for visitors to recognize its presence. Random samplings carried out among students revealed a worrying situation. While many of them hardly know where the public libraries are located, some don't even know that public libraries exist. This perhaps explains why the standard of education in the state is on the decline. The reference section, located on the first floor, is lightly deserted, with only one patron present apart from the staff. The shelves are filled with old, dusty books, revealing lack of maintenance and updates. Public libraries in Ogun State are also a worrisome sight. Users no longer patronize the state library. One of the major factors causing this is because the libraries are not digitalized and facilities are in a poor state.
Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us. This is part 2 of Just Africa. Now, from broken chalkboards to overcoming classrooms, Nigeria's education system continues to reflect a deeper concern in policy, investment, and a national vision. In this part 2, Just Africa, we confront the systemic gaps plaguing our public education in the level of infrastructure, from underfunded schools and outdated curricula to the growing disconnect between classroom learning and real-world skills. What are the long-term consequences of these learning gaps on national productivity, innovation, and inclusive growth? And what urgent reforms are we required to prevent the entire generation from being left behind? These are some of the questions our guest will be dealing with as he joins us on the program today. Now, my guest is Comrade Adeyemi Samson Ajasa. He is a leading Nigerian student activist, political analyst, and youth empowerment advocate as the National Public Relations Officer of the National Association of Nigerian Students. He plays a frontline role in championing student rights, welfare, and educational reforms across Nigeria. Beyond his work with NANS, Ajasa is also the CEO of Stardot Global Enterprise, where he promotes entrepreneurship and youth-led innovation. His leadership bridges activism, business, and community development, and is driven by a commitment to shaping a generation of empowered, educated, and visionary African leaders. Adeyemi Samson Ajasa, welcome to Just Africa, and many thanks for joining us on the program. Okay, Ajasa will join us in the course of the conversation.
Yes, quite an interesting topic we have here, because there are a lot of gaps here. Major one has to do with funding. Even our guest said it earlier on that Nigeria has the highest number of population of out-of-school children, about 10 million.
She mentioned 20 million.
20 million.
Out-of-school children.
Out-of-school children.
And you also said about 1 out of 10 children given birth to in Nigeria, one of them is special needs children, and only 10% of that number survived.
No, I get access to quality education. Then again, we also have the situation of funding. I mean, it's supposed to be 15% of the budget, but most countries 10% or 5%.
5%. That of Nigeria is 5%. Now we have Comrade Adeyemi, right? Samson Ajasa. He joins us via Zoom virtually. Welcome to the program. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here this afternoon.
Good. It's nice to have you. Now, previously, before now, we've been talking about special needs children and their ability to, of the government or the society to inculcate them inclusively into the frame of things as far as education and social life, social living is concerned. So our core will be on education, but it also border on profiling welfare for those people with special needs. So we are looking at education, and we understood your background, most especially whilst we are reading out your profile of both combining student activism and business-wise. So when we look at the Nigerian education industry, apart from few universities, we can't really tell that it has been made a cultural or part of a social system where we build structures that not only cater to normal human beings and normal students, but it looks like we have left the special needs student, maybe those who are hard of hearing, maybe those who are blind, maybe those who cannot walk but who use wheelchairs, and maybe those who have some other special needs like dyslexia or autism. It looks like they are being taken out of the system. So what role, or what do you think when you were doing student activism back in school? Did your activism also cater to those people with special needs?
Thank you very much. Our activism covers both the challenge and not the challenge students in Nigeria. And that is why anybody who is a bona fide student of any tertiary institutions in Nigeria, even our activism covers private institutions. Most times, even they might not be a voting or having the right to vote or not to be voted for, private institutions. Still yet, our activism covers them in the essence that they bear the title students. So wherever there is agitation, wherever there is need for us to show commitment to their wellness, to their safety, we always ensure we respond to that. So our activism is not just based on the students alone who are physically upright, but even those that are challenged, there's need for us, and we have always, in every time, to also ensure that we attend to their needs and their well-wishes.
Thank you very much. But the role of schools, tertiary institutions, do you think when establishing infrastructure, erecting infrastructure, whether at the library or lecture theaters, do you think they put students with special needs into consideration?
Thank you very much. If we look at it critically from from the federal government to the state level and down to the local government level, we will see that the structure of how education was being set up in Nigeria does not give room for challenge students in any way. Most likely, most times, the leadership of those institutions, either university, secondary school, or primary, mostly determined how they challenge themselves to ensure that they cater for the needs of these students who are challenged. If we look at it critically, there are a lot of institutions that you get to nowadays that you see aside, okay, for example, when you get to a lot of institutions, Senate buildings, and the likes, and mostly of their administrative blocks, either you see lifts and staircase. So in a situation whereby the lift is not working, they make use of the staircase. So now let's ask ourselves, those that are physically challenged, how many of these construction buildings are necessary plans put into places that, okay, truly we have people that are challenged, and how do we cater for them if the lift is not working? They can't use the staircase. So how do we ensure that there's this movement that they can be able to move? So you see that truly that has been one thing that we've suffered for years and for decades ago. But you see that at least for about 4 or 5 years now, there are some buildings that that is awarded out now that are putting those features into play. Yes, there are a lot of institutions I visited recently that most of their new buildings cater for normal staircase, normal wheelchair staircase. So I think we don't have to keep agitating and let the government see that attention needs to be paid more to these angles. And as I've said earlier, is the fact that the way we see both curriculum in Nigeria, both infrastructure, both the library components, most of these things are not critically taken into consideration for those that are physically challenged, either by hearing, by sight, or by walking, which I believe more of these have to be be done. And the funniest is that we have a lot of academia, professors, professionals in different fields, even in terms of sport, that study this line, and they are perfect experts in this angle in terms of challenge students, and how government can be able to focus more on this particular part, which I believe that government should be able to ensure that they partner with these people to ensure that they put necessary adequate materials into that place. I was listening to the rounding up of the earlier uh, earlier person that was speaking, and I learned a lot of things. If you look at the libraries we have in Nigeria today, are they truly library? Recently, I was having an interview concerning the National Library that was yet to be completed till today. So these are critical issues that we have to look at. That is truly is education having that priority truly? The nation does not have the database of its citizens. Then how can we be able to be truly see that this is the level of students we have in Nigeria? Truly, we will be able to get that data through tertiary institutions, secondary institutions, based on their registered number of students. But at least, how are we sure that their role in classes, and this is the angle of the gap, educational gap we have in Nigeria today. It is so wide from reality of we understand that we should be by now today. When many of us were growing up and doing job, we know the level of preparedness we put into it, and we know the level of commitment we put into it. But today, we could see declining in the number of results that is coming outside. Because why it came out, I think, yesterday, and those that have 5 credits with English and mathematics, it was just about 38.2%. So this shows that clearly it is declining. And this is a critical time that we look at the old structure of education in Nigeria. What is this?
All right. Thank you Mr. Samson Ajasa, we are due for a break. We'll go on a break. When we return, we'll continue having this conversation. Now, do join us again. It's Just Africa. We'll be back in a moment.
On the 19th of August 2025, Paris will come alive with the prestigious People's Choice Governors Awards taking place at the Gauche Hotel, Paris. The prestigious People's Choice Governors Awards is designed to celebrate governors who have contributed immensely to their states in different countries across the world. If you are a governor who's gone above and beyond to deliver transformative projects in your state and country, then this award is for you. To partake of the Governor's Excellence Awards this year taking place in Paris, all you have to do is send an email to supnexus.com with the words, "I accept," and we will get right back to you. You can also send a WhatsApp message to the WhatsApp number scrolling on your screen right now. You don't want to miss Paris for anything, and we are looking forward to celebrating you and your achievements this year. So contact Soup Nexus to make that happen.
Welcome to Femi Walsh Limited, owners of Soup TV Lagos, Our Radio Lagos, Kaswa Radio Kano, and of course, Emirates TV Abuja and Dubai. Our niche market for media is business, economy, and development. At Femi Walsh, we promote your company's products and services using our world-class facilities. From our radio to Sook TV, what you get is nothing but the best of the very best.
And if you're looking for the premium production firm for your events and corporate coverage, think no further, because we offer you the best of industry stuff.
With high-definition cameras ranging from 4K to 8K multicam setups, high-directional microphones, and real-time streaming encoders, we give you a production like none other. And if you're looking to produce podcasts, adverts, and documentaries, our team of experts will ensure that you convey your message clearly and professionally. Femi Walsh, Global Vision, Local Impact.
Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us on the program. Now we are looking at gaps and inclusive impact learning in the Nigerian education sector. We have DME Samson Ajasa, who is a political analyst, a student activist, and a businessman, join us on the program. Many thanks for joining us on the program again. Kindly unmute your device, Adeyemi Ajasa.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here.
Very much welcome.
All right, thank you very much, comrade. One of the areas, critical areas that need attention when it comes to inclusion for all child is the female gender. In Nigeria here, certain traditions negate the girl child from having quality access to education. Some of them are married off at a very young age. Some of them are just prepared for marriage. Some of them are seen as lesser, the little weaker gender. The men have to fend and go provide for the family while the women just stay at home or at best in the kitchen. So how do we even begin to recalibrate the minds of Nigerians? It's not just in Nigeria, in some other countries. I mean, recently in one other country, they just allowed women to start accessing education. So it's worldwide. How do we even begin to recalibrate Nigerians? Second question, do you think that funding for education, do you see it as a misplaced priority? Because UNICEF advocates for 15% of the budget, but we have in Nigeria here, I think about 5% or thereabout. Do you think it's misplaced priorities? What can the government do more?
Thank you very much. Let me speak on the first question that focus on the girl child. You see, in the reality of things in Nigeria today, and even in the world, what matters most is the family, and from the family to the society. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Please continue.
Okay. The issue we have is family, and from family to society at large. Some years back, we'll see that this has been a raging topic, a bit that we have always been addressing, and even a lot of time when many of us were growing up, it's something we are conversant with on TV stations, radio stations, on issue of girl-child inclusion, girl-child education, and the likes, and the early issue of early marriage. But this is the reality of what we have today, and most of this thing is a bit peculiar to each political region than others. And that is the sincere reality to my own as at now. If we look at the issue we have in southern part of Nigeria today, it has changed dramatically. Most factors that hinder this issue mostly now is poverty, abject poverty in southern part of Nigeria. And before abject poverty will deny a girl child education in Nigeria today, then you must have known that the abject poverty has become severe, that no school, there's no way you get to the southern part of Nigeria today. Even in the most rural community, I'm sure you'll find government institution, primary and secondary school there, even though it may not be as standard as it should be, but you still find one there. Also, you find primary school, you find it there. No matter the structure, no matter the standard, you will still find it there. That is the southern part of Nigeria. Now, when we look at North, the issue of early child marriage in North also is declining to some extent today. About some days ago, I think Friday or Thursday, there was this issue from Bayero University in Sokoto, whereby about 15,747 students benefited from net fund loan. That's a single section, and that was around 1.663 billion. So this also, there was a video on my device here where the way they were celebrating it, and so it shows that alone will give a lot of hope. And the issue of abject poverty will also be eliminated to some extent. The only issue I could say mostly to get child education in the northern part of Nigeria is the early marriage. And with little level of civilization and the people coming on board, today now, social media has helped us a lot, even that even a northern girl child can see a lot of northern leaders who are doing well in their profession, either politics, either business-wise, either in private industry, either internationally. They can see a lot of people who are becoming somebody who also grow up from that same state or that same local government they find themselves. So today, there is orientation is being changing. As you said, I will calibrate it. Orientation is changing. Then goes to a lot of NGOs who has been going into these rural communities and like UNICEF and the rest. They are really doing amazingly. And you see a lot of videos online now whereby there are a lot of advocacy going on in the rural area and especially in the northern part of Nigeria on how to ensure that its children have education. And the issue of victimization, that they will take them to early marriage, nobody will be aware of it and the like. So most of these things is reducing because social media is taking effect, and it's a good tool. Most of these issues can be brought on board for us to address and for people to bring it to the attention of the government and for a lot of stakeholders to get involved. So as far as it is, I believe in that girl child education. Nigeria is progressing to some extent. Yes, we are progressing. We might not be where we wish to be, but irrespective, we are progressing. And if we look at the current status and the enrollment as of 2025, we'll see that the enrollment is a bit more better, despite the fact that the dropout state figure is still so high. But I believe that this snell fund loan, if you look at the statistics as at yesterday, the northern states are taking higher percentage. The whole of northern are having about 435,000. Is it 435,000? Yeah. At least they have, Southwest is just about 48% of all the total students in the North. So it shows that the North, despite the fact that we believe that they have this low level orientation about education, they are seeing it as a key something to key on. And they are benefiting massively from it. Even we in the Southern that believe that we value education from early childhood to whatsoever, we still not grab that opportunity as much as they. So if you look at this, to me, it shows that clearly things are getting better. And if you want to look at it, really, the area insecurity is a major part. And this insurgency. If you look at Borno, a lot of community, and I thank God for the kind of governor they have there. Professor Zulu is so I respected so much. The way he handled this is because he's someone that also has grew the rank of a professor and understand the benefit of quality education. And he's a man that you see a lot. Well, I've not been to Borno that often, but when you see a lot of things online and the level of infrastructure in terms of school I put there, then you believe that if there's no insurgency and this insecurity in that state, then we should all be very proud of the level of education in Borno State. See as Zamfara, Yobe, and look at what's happening in Jos today. So this the level of insecurity is also a factor that we have to look into, despite abject poverty. This insecurity also have to. So if we can be able to ensure that the government can be able to address security as much as possible, then look for about in the last administration, there was this that was so rampant in the southeast and south. This sit at home of a thing. But we look at it that every Monday sit at home, it's a fact. Basically, at that time, even doing WAEC and JAM, that it becomes a global issue. But today, you see that we've now moved from that stage. Now we have passed that state that there's nothing like sit at home in the East anymore. So the issue of insurgency in the North, and I believe the government should address it at the right time to ensure that it don't become a barrier.
Mr. Sampson, thank you very much. Now, there's something I need to ask you, and that's because not only the fact that you started as a student activism, but now you are also a businessman and you tend to combine both together. You've been in the space of business after you've been in activism, and now there is a call that there is need for us to revamp and overhaul our education curriculum. And that, as it is, the current educational curriculum does not equip students to face the current realities, economic realities, business realities, developmental realities that are calling for attention, not only in Nigeria, but also in Africa. So do you believe in the argument that says, as it is now, we should be looking at, revamping and reforming our education curriculum to represent current realities?
Thank you very much. Are you with me?
Yes, please, go on.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me first of all use an adage by my professor, Professor Adeja Bola, which always says that you cannot have a better society than the product of universities. What we have is reality of who we are, or who we are is reality of what we have. Rather, the Nigerian educational curriculum needs total revamping. If we look at critical issues, I think by now we have to look away from the fact that we have moved, and government has been able to call for a lot of policy meetings, either one way or the other, to bring adjustment to it and the other. And there's always been every year accreditation by NLC and MBT and all the likes. But critically looking at the whole set of the education of Nigeria, from primary school to, let me say, end of first degree, it is something we have to look at the recent reality of life. And how are we measuring it? In Nigeria now, we believe in this kind of sentiment that in polytechnic, they give you the practical part of it. But when you are in university, they give you both practical and the theoretical parts of it in the combination. And when you go to vocational studies, they give you the raw practical of it and how to ensure that the skills part of it. Now, I believe if we look at it, many of us have not been able to study abroad, but we've been able to at least see a lot of people that goes abroad and ask, what is the difference? And we've seen a lot of research being conducted. What is the difference between Nigeria educational plan, the curriculum, and what they have over there? And we see that the changing is just the fact that they ensure that they set their curriculum in line with their present realities at all time. They don't wait for that time or for that time to elapse, for that decades. Okay, look at Nigeria now. The AI we are celebrating today, ChatGPT and the likes we are using today, you know, number of years these people have been using it. They fixed to that reality for years. And we are not there. So the fact is that the issue sector we find ourselves in Nigeria now, okay, in terms of finance, what is the present reality of state of finance in Nigeria, in the economy? Is it the same macroeconomy they are teaching us in campus? Is it the reality of what we have in the society now? In biology and physics, is it the same thing that is in same old textbooks? That is what is happening today. The invention of Elon Musk, another scientist, space, and all these things. Recently, we'll see what happened between Israel and Iran, how they deploy different atomic bombs. What we have in fixes in our textbook, is it up to that reality? It's not. If we look at medicine, the level of operation that we have today, including AI supportive operations, is it the reality of what we have in our campuses today in terms of medicine? Even the practical aspect, it is not. So these are critical things I think there is need for government to bring heads that have what it takes to formulate a standard curriculum that will be the pure reality of where we are in Nigeria now and how we are getting there. We want to become a professor, we want to become a doctor. You must start from that basis. Then how is that basis taking you to that place? You want to do PhD is mostly for thesis. If it is direct PhD and it's not MPhil, it is direct thesis and seminars and public journal writing and publications. So automatically, the major part of this is your foundation, which is your first degree. Whatsoever you want to do at the second degree at your master's level, both courses, both classworks and your research and your thesis still lie mostly on your first degree. Either HND, PLC. If you have HND, you still have to go and do postgraduate diploma. So, you see, this system itself has been something that has been so long. And it is that time you do some program in Nigeria and you will be borrowing some courses at the end of the day. So, okay, someone finished from Nigeria and studied political science. The same person went to Canada and studied supply chain. If it is in Nigeria, they will give you some unnecessary bureaucratic process and things that does not even apply to current reality. Because you do not have, what was it called at your undergraduate, because you're a science student, you want to do supply chain, you want to do data analysis, you have to come up. You just see a lot of things that will hinder that process. And the fact that is the reality of life now, that almost 70% of Nigerian youth with first degree are not living to that reality of their life now.
Thank you very much, Comrade. Thank you very much for that thought-provoking answer. So let's look at another critical area, that's governance and funding. Do you think that education should be decentralized more to allow for local government, local communities take more ownership? Secondly, Another question I'd like to ask again is, since we are moving to a global community, do you think digital learning can bridge the gap between rural and urban education quality?
Thank you very much. Let me attend to the issue of funding. You see, the reality we have ourselves today is the fact that truly we believe that the centralization of power most times give adequate attention and ensure that critical attentions are being paid to most of these issues. But in Nigeria, it is backward. Recently, if you visit two campuses in each state in Nigeria now, that is out of 36 states now, plus FCT, let's make it 37. 37, visit just 2 institutions in those 37. Visit one federal university and visit one state university. At the end of the day, you will discover that most of infrastructural buildings, vehicles, and the likes, furnitures you meet in these institutions are from debt fund. That's the sincere reality we have today. Now, most states, it's very rare for you to see most of our state governors going to campuses, especially state universities, state institutions that is under their domain, to see them erecting buildings. Despite the level of IGR they have recently now, I'm telling you, if you carry this survey out today, you cannot see 30% of foundations in any institutions across Nigeria. No attention. Attention. And the most funniest part is the fact that if you check the subvention they were given, you see that at the end of the day, they still have to rely mostly on internal generated revenue. That is why you see duplication of money. Medical insurance that is already in their school fees and ID card, they will split it out again to be paid. And these are issues that we face as student leaders in Nigeria. We are seeing the reality that the state governors of most states are not paying the critical attention they should pay to this education. So if the government takes away that fund and hand it over to them completely, I'm telling you, I don't know how most institutions will survive today. I don't know how they will survive. So if not for that fund that we still have, that is the central body that is assisting in terms of infrastructure today. It is so sincere. Ask a lot of lecturers today. You have your ask, just make a random call to most lecturers and professors. Many of them, they are international grants. They are, what's it called? International conferences and the likes. Article paper. It's being sponsored by Tech Fund. It's being sponsored by Tech Fund. So it's the fact that, and it is so sincere truth is the fact that most of these head of institutions cannot open their mouth and say anything, because they are being appointed, they are being put there by the governors. So either you are ready to manage your institution and ensure that there is peace and there is progress, or you walk out. There are a lot of people bringing their CV and they are ready to work. So the reality is the fact that the funding in Nigeria is inadequate. And there cannot be adequate funding if there is no sincere interest in education. So the critical question is that what is the level of attention our government are paying into the education?
Adeyemi Samson. Okay, as we get ready to wrap up, I would like to ask you this question. Now, there's an argument that the private operators who own universities, they've come to fill in the gaps, most of the infrastructure that government institutions cannot provide, most of the up-to-date education that should cater to the current realities that we face as Africans, that private institutions or private universities or colleges of education have come to made up that space in terms of funding and the likes. What's your take in this argument? Do you go with that perspective that the private tertiary institutions are doing a good job, or you still think the government has a responsibility to play?
there's no way the private institutions will not make headway, and they will not live up to standard and give best output where necessary, because it is what it is profit oriented. Yes, a business that wants to move further, that want to move fine, and I want to do well, will ensure that the demand and the needs of his clients are met. And a parent that can pay 1 million for your course in Nigeria, I'm telling you that if such parents try harder, there's tendency for them to send their children abroad. So such case, it gives private institutions the reasons to gear up and to do best of their ability. The situation we have in Nigeria is just the fact that, as I've said earlier, that is the sincerity. The social benefits of education, which the government believe that, okay, we are doing the people, it's good for them to have education. It's still not seen as held, or probably let me say the value or the commitment they should position to it. Truly, many institutions are striving in Nigeria. And it is one thing, if you go to law schools, and recent back October they did, if you check the statistics and the data, you will find it that most of their first class students are from public tertiary institutions in Nigeria who studies laws. So there are a lot of ways you can evaluate and examine the productivity and excellent results of these institutions. You will come out that private tertiary, even some institutions, you'll be so surprised that, wow, you are from that institution. So it does not limit to the level of funding or the level of up to date.
All right, comrade. I don't know whether you can hear me.
I can hear you.
All right, so in closing up in less than a minute, most of the time we see a situation whereby students apply for a particular degree, they come out and there's no job, and they end up, some of them who are lucky and during their course of degree apply for vocational skills and all that, so they are able to support themselves if the job is not there. So there's this debate which I want to put to you. Should Nigeria focus more on vocational and skill-based education than the formal university degrees?
Thank you very much. The two have to work hand in hand simultaneously. That is the sincere truth. First of all is the fact that the educational part of that mindset must be first of all instilled, which is the right education, the both practical and the theoretical part of it. But what is most important is the fact that these skills acquisitions must be embedded in it. You see a lot of institutions that will come up today and tell you that they are doing entrepreneurship, they are doing skills, this and that. But are they really practical, or they are just another certification? Is it entrepreneurship or practical? That, okay, the students are making this, they are producing this, the paper, the file you are using in this university, the students are the one using the raw materials, bringing it up, the tissue paper we are using, this is what they are trying to produce with it, the pen we are using, are they practical, or it's just another certificate? Okay, you have also earned another certificate in entrepreneurship. So the critical question is that, are we examining the outcome of the entrepreneurship part of it? So if you look at abroad also, they do the practical, they do the theoretical aspect. So it still has to work to hand in hand, because there are some, for someone that study mathematics, the level of reasoning and calculation and some things that will be in that brain will be different. So if it is just the practical aspect also, and the theoretical, the IQ level of reasoning and critical thinking part of it is not there, there will still be lapses. Yes, a pilot must be able to have a critical thinking. So just imagine it's just a practical, you come and take an aeroplane, this is how you go, this is how you go, and there's no mathematical, statistical thinking and ability in that brain. So it will not still work completely. So I believe we just have to ensure that both works together and they tally, and we have a good result. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Comrade Adeyemi Samson Ajasa is a leading Nigerian student activist, political analyst, and youth empowerment advocate as the National Public Relations Officer of National Association of Nigerian Student NADS. He plays a very, very good frontline role in championing students' rights, welfare, and educational reform across the country, and now is also in the business sector. Thank you so much, very much, Adeyemi Samson Ajasa, for joining us on the program today on Just Africa.
So thank you very much for the privilege and for the opportunity to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, and that's a good place for us to draw the curtain.
Yes.
It's such a when we're speaking, you know, I have a different position in this and about education and how some of the courses that we study is not relevant to what we are doing today. I don't think all the courses that we did in university was a loss.
Okay.
Yes, probably there are some students who do not actually, what they are practicing today, they had no idea, they don't want, in fact, it doesn't require any sense or calculation of mathematics, but they were rigorously involved in mathematical calculation, either in social sciences or in the pure sciences. At that time, they were in tertiary institutions or probably in primary or secondary school. I don't see that as a loss, because mathematics, you know, quickens your mind. It enables you to think critically.
Being able to solve
difficult problem, to carry out to put different strategy in places, in processes and in phases to achieve a specific goal and specific result. That doesn't come cheap.
Yes.
And so if as a writer you also know mathematics, and even at the basic stage, it helps you in trying to put out your strategy. Even as anything, mathematics is required because of the special effect that in your brain. I think probably this is going to be another conversation for another day, where we really have an education expert who will speak to us concerning this. But I think we had a very good conversation today. First of all, with Ms. Chukwunonso, and then to Adeyemi Samson, Ajasa Comrade.
It was quite interesting. Just like you said, when I was in secondary school, I also learned how to use graph to draw. I could actually draw someone, but I also learned how to use graph to draw. So it's not a waste when I learned the graph. So I would say, for instance, what I studied in university, every course I did helped along the line. I mean, speech, during speech class and all that, everything helped. Even critical thinking. We did a course on critical thinking. Back then, I thought there was no use for it. But we did another course in psychology. But these are courses that really, to me, I feel it helped at the long run.
It did. Actually, I did courses in industrial psychology, and it's quite helpful. Well, that's what we're drawing the curtain today on Just Africa. I hope you've had yourself a good time. Now, do well to follow us on all our social media platforms at Soup News TV. I'm Oyinpri Kurumale. Until we'll come your way again tomorrow, do have yourself a splendid day ahead.
It's been a pleasure joining us on Just Africa. Let's do this again tomorrow. I am Olumide Shokoya.